pretty momentous stuff at the weekend, and I'm not just talking about Steve69 at gmail.com, who was our first full internet
Legit
troll.
troller. Yeah, that was
Um,
amazing.
it's quite
Worryingly
something.
accurate.
Quite
Anyway,
something.
I guess we can prelude it by this time last week. We did promise people a special preview. Partly we didn't do it partly because I was laid up and unable to really move. Partly because we kind of did ran out of things to say. People may have seen it on some of our social media. Like it felt like there was just so it was so saturated with opinions and content, and it was all largely the same stuff. And we have said as much as they're kind of as much as we wanted to say about this France squad in the lead up to it. Yeah, I kind of went into it in the week building up to it. Maybe it's because I was ill. I just wasn't that infused. By the time kind of Saturday came around, I was like, okay, this is actually quite cool. And I think it was more the fact that I was having a day out, having had a crap week. But were you? Am I putting words in your mouth there, or did you kind of share those sentiments?
Well, I share the sentiment of I didn't feel we had a huge amount to add. I think there was so much focus on the selection in particular. The obviously the magnitude of the game was so vast that sort of spoke for itself. I'm not sure. When I watched, I was worried someone was keeping you hostage, Rob, when you sent me your preview video, which basically said you weren't particularly excited for the game, which did surprise me somewhat because it was, it was a cracker and it was arguably the showpiece game from the outset. But maybe that's the flu talking. But I think in the aftermath of it, there are some salient points to run through. And it was a fantastic watch. I think regardless, unless you're an Ireland fan, there was some awesome rugby, some plenty of talking points, some intrigue as well. So yeah, to start off, best win you can remember in this kind of Galthié Edwards, I suppose, era for
No,
France?
no,
No? What
no.
is?
The first time, 2021, when they beat the All Blacks in Paris. Either that or I think they beat South Africa around that time as well. But I just remember that game that has the Entomac kind of on his own line running it out. And there's like I think they were just playing such good rugby then, and they absolutely dominated the All Blacks, which not many people do. That would be up there. I think there was probably a few in that Grand Slam winning year. I think there was a pretty well, yeah. I think the England 50 something 10 or whatever a couple of years ago at Twickenham, I think has got to be up there as well, just for the sheer demolition of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, I
I
think
take it.
this
I take it.
is.
You think
I
it
think
is?
this is. Well, I think it's one of a couple. Ireland, what haven't lost in the Six Nations 3 years. They're going to have lost one out of 15. Hadn't lost
No, they
longest
lost last
ever.
year to England.
Oh, correct. Sorry. You are correct. Hadn't lost in Dublin for 10 games in the
Yeah,
Six Nations, which is the longest streak ever. And I think they were slight favourites going into it. I think it's a massive performance, not least because they certainly didn't have it their own way in the first half. And I think it's probably one of the more complete performances, and the actual margin of victory is far bigger than a couple of sort of what's the word consolation tries show at the end. Like it was a bit of a dusting.
I saw. There's a guy on TikTok that we follow who's got a quite big following. A young lad. He's Irish and he's a Leinster fan. And he went in full rant mode and was saying you can take 15 points off that France score and you get an accurate reflection of the game. I was like, we're watching the same game, mate. Like you scored two tries at the end to make it look remotely respectable. And he was complaining it was like the worst refereeing performance I've ever seen. I was like, I watched watching it back yesterday, kind of having seen that video on Sunday morning. I was like, I, I, I mean, Irish fans can be accused of being one-eyed sometimes, but it was a pretty
I don't,
comfortable
I
win
don't
in the
think too
end.
many. I don't think too many Irish folk players, whatever, had too many complaints about it. I
No.
think that was quite an extreme viewpoint. Um, what you would say? Did we learn anything from this game? Take the learnings, as a failing coach might say. Did we? Anything that stood
I
out to
think
you here?
I think we did. What do you think we learned? I need to kind of gather my thoughts on that.
Well,
Oscar
for
Jegu is really good. He's not a center. He's never going to start a game as a center, but he is very good.
He's very good, isn't he? And he also looks really. He's quite like awkwardly shaped. He looks like you're
Yeah,
going to end up with like an elbow or a
yeah.
shoulder or a knee. It's all a bit like the guy at school who's a bit weird and sort of meant like minces people, which he was doing. He was very good. I've learned that I still don't think the 7-1 bench, and that's the last time I'm going to use the phrase 7-1 because yeah, just I thought I was going to go mental if I heard it again last week, but I'm not entirely sure if you delve into it, it works. But I want to talk about that in a moment. I think actually I haven't learned too much, but there's a couple of players who we looked at Gross, Guillard, Murfana, who've had really good campaigns. And this felt like the biggest test for each of those individuals. And I think they all came through superbly. They were great.
I think
And
that
making like
validates their
proper,
form, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. Murfana in particular, particularly his defensive
I
effort
think
was
he was.
awesome.
I think he was man of the
Probably,
match
yeah, I'm with you. I think he just expended a huge amount. He was at the heart of everything.
everywhere,
He
absolutely
he really
everywhere.
was. I've learned that sometimes you can see what Francois Cross is up to. He was pretty conspicuous in the first 15 minutes, having made about 100 tackles. He was very, very good. Um, and I think we've learned that, well, not learned, but I really loved Maxime Lucu's performance.
Yeah,
Somebody who, to be fair, in a France shirt, at least in recent memory, is flattered to deceive a little bit. He was fabulous. And coming on as well, not just in a last 30 minutes, so you get a bit of game time, but the game's done, or you're continuing momentum. Like France from the back foot when he came on, and he was right front and centre of their turnaround,
I
from
think
whatever it
there's.
was, 25 onwards.
I think because if you look back to 12 months, the fourth round of the Six Nations last year was the game that he got dropped for. Was when Le Garrec first came in.
Yeah,
So it's quite. If you kind of think back to last year, I think there's the circumstances of him coming on were less unfavorable, if that makes sense. Like I think he could like this time last year he could only fail. You know, Dupont was playing red hot rugby. You know, they've just lost the World Cup. They're low on confidence. There's kind of Entamax injured. Like, is Jalabert the right man? Is he fit? Like, blah blah blah. Like, there's some of the so much pressure on him, and so he would have been so in the spotlight at that time in France. Whereas I think since he's got dropped last year, his club form has been absolutely excellent, which has probably given him a huge confidence boost. He is the main man there. He has had a bit of recognition from the kind of wider public as a result of that. And I think in this scenario, he came on, there wasn't that whole pressure because he came on mid match. And as you say, he's coming on to have a full performance. Like
yeah,
he's not filling in for someone else or he's not carrying on someone else's work. He is picking up the ingredients and cooking the dish himself, which I think was quite key to that, to his performance. And I think just the whole belief and confidence and faith in, you could see the faith of his teammates. And I think just anyone that has watched any French rugby, domestic French rugby that is, knows how good a player he is. And I think everyone that has seen it was kind of more than happy to see this performance and kind of for him to show his true colors on a bigger stage to a wider audience.
yeah, yeah. He was excellent. He was sublime. Anything else to the learnings?
Um, nothing.
Peno still loose, absolute hero.
Still lose,
What I
still
love him
lose.
so much. I love it. He is such a hero.
I did see the not Peno, but BLBRA. I saw because obviously his try just like skins the first one where he chips out, he skins everyone just with his sheer pace. and I saw a photo of someone had done like a photo and done like the most rudimentary, like WhatsApp or like iPhone arrows for like Prendergast and him in two different colors. And the caption was just video analysis was so key, like for the brighter banner.
That's very good. Like that.
Because I think that is like the winger was slow to turn or something, isn't it? It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, really stayed with me, that one, like all of the last few days.
No, that's nice. Like it a lot. Um, just quickly then, the Le Bon squad, the Sept bench, whatever you want to call it. It's the new 21, I'm calling it, the
Yeah.
that one. Um, Obviously huge number of plaudits to Galthié, fair play the way it transpired. They were behind at just before 50 minutes, before obviously kind of lit the touch paper. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've got a couple of semi-keen views on how I view that bench performance.
Uh, I kind of lost track of who was on, to be honest. Even rewatching it, I kind of forgot who was the replacement forwards. I was expecting Rumat to appear, and then I realised he wasn't actually in the squad. It was Orada instead, and Jelonch. But I think I don't think it's necessary, is it? Like it's just Jelonch was great as he would be if in a 5-3 bench.
Yeah,
Miafu off the bench is quite useful as you might expect. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
and at what point might they have quite fancied Nicolas Deporter at 13
Yeah,
or
certainly on another day if the
yeah.
Barassi injury happens a little bit earlier. Yeah, for me, I think don't get me wrong, they were to a man, they were all really good. Miafu feels like some play having Miafu off the bench. Like it's almost like his
Yeah.
impact is double.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Like he just did everything. But I think the sort of slightly blanket, you know, how well that bench did maybe detracts a little bit from a couple of like how good the individual performances were. Because Miafu said there was magnificent. We've already spoken about Luku and Jegu. But I really thought as well that Marchand off the bench brought some like real intensity and just gnarliness that looked quite first choice hookery, to be honest. And
I thought it's probably best Malvaca's best performance of the
yeah,
tournament as well. His
yeah, he
throwing was
was
really good, and he
he was
a couple
decent.
of really key turnovers at breakdowns. Like and early on when they were under the pump, that was
Yeah,
Malvaca winning those breakdowns.
Malacca and Cross, wasn't it? Were everywhere. Um, but yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is that I feel like the by bucketing them all together, I think it slightly detracts from how good those two are in particular. Didn't see a huge amount of Dorian Aldegheri, I'll be honest with you. I think his plaudits of his stock has risen, having not done a huge amount.
Just by
Um,
virtue of being part of
but
the Toulouse
being
bomb
part of
squad or
it.
whatever they were calling it.
But they were
What did
very,
you
very good.
what did you make of some of the refereeing decisions? I think the yellow cards are all legit. The McCarthy one is stupid.
Hmm.
I think the Calvin Nash one in the pub I thought it was red, but having seen it again, it's
Yeah,
definitely a
I don't
yellow.
I don't think it is.
I think them just I mean, there are a few people who are uh have had their eyes kind of revealed to some of the tricks of Peter Omani, and I am definitely one of them. And I think he's one of the dirtiest players to have ever played the game. And I think some of his stuff was utterly cynical. Like how they've not had a second look at the one where he just wipes out Murfana
Well, there were two,
charging
weren't
the
there?
ball down.
There was
Like,
one on BLBRA, I think, and then there was one on
yeah.
Mo Afana. I think it was the second one,
The second
maybe
one,
Mo Afana,
he makes it. The second one is
was
the
quite.
Overray, and it looks more like he's trying to charge it down. The Murfana one, he doesn't even look like
Maybe it
he looks like he
was.
just runs into his shoulder.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that. That was the only thing that sort of annoyed me slightly, just because I think that is actually it's all well and good having a few dark arts, but that's just dangerous, isn't it?
Just
Like
thuggery, yeah.
just sort of, I don't know. Well, we saw what happened to Antoine Dupont and his leg basically got stuck. Like, okay, two different incidents, but that's the exact reason you're not allowed to go in with those sort of like no arms tackles close to the line, where you essentially make yourself like a speed bump. Because if your
Yeah.
foot gets stuck, you're completely fucked. So yeah, I didn't like that. Otherwise, like, there was so much going on. I think in the grand scheme of things, most of the big stuff was probably absolutely fine.
The only
I
one that I'm less okay with is actually the conversely is actually the Peter O'Mahony beyond the ruck thing at the for the Boudon try. I think
you think that should have been chalked off?
he milks it 100%, but I
Mm,
don't quite understand the argument of him being a matador because he's not duped he's not duping Flamont into anything. Flamont is just keeps going forward into him,
yeah,
and he's on the floor in the space that like
yeah,
he falls over. He doesn't need to go down, but he is would be in the space. I think they probably still score the try, but yeah,
yeah. Can see it. Can see
I
that
didn't
either
quite get
way.
the arguments. But I thought Angus Gardner was very good. But to echo a point you made about Luke Pearce earlier on in the season, I feel
It's
like
too good.
I
Yeah,
heard Angus Gardner a lot.
yeah.
Like
It's this weird. It's a
a
weird
lot. It's
situation, isn't
just
it?
so just only ever hear his voice. Like
The
more than
best
like Miles Harrison.
the best referees are the ones who communicate. They're constantly in touch with the players. Like absolute cauldron. They've now got their decisions going out in front of 60,000 people, and everyone's kicking off. But the flip side is this classic case, isn't it? You almost sort of strive for perfection, and it does just take a little bit away from me. It's a bit too front and center. But for the most part, I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think on the Omani one, I can definitely see that. I think the thing that maybe saves him ever so slightly is that it's John Baptiste Gross, isn't it, who goes through that gap to start with, and
Yeah.
it's sort of not. It is where Omani was, but not like exactly. And then
Yeah.
Luku gets offloaded the ball and goes through and flips out of the back like an absolute legend. But it is sort of like there's just enough of a gap to make it look slightly less obvious. Whereas maybe if that had gone to a faster man, that gap is filled slightly more quickly, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit
Maybe.
black and white. But I don't think it was
You
too much of a
mentioning
problem
the
either way.
you mentioning the Luka offload has just reminded me of the most ludicrous piece of play where Ramos is on the deck and like as he's like falling to deck, no look, hop pass to BLBRA, who then does a crossfield kick that goes 10 meters backwards to Peno, who then actually makes quite a good clearance. But it's
Yeah,
just one of the loosest bits of play
it's
in an
unbelievable.
international game.
It's unbelievable. But the clearance from Peno is amazing, but it's like an eyes closed whack it. And I feel like BLBRA, he's still because he's got the world at his feet at the moment. Like if you do that the other way around and it's Peno doing that kick to BLBRA, people like Galthié is imploding. But because he's like the wonder child, and because Peno is such a loose cannon, it just sort of like it all feels perfectly fine. But I mean, it was an amazing clearance, wasn't it? Like the
Yeah.
whole thing couldn't have worked out better. I saw Charlie Morgan in the Telegraph put a tweet out that said something like, "Oh, that's the most outrageous clearance I've ever seen," and then put in quotes like Gibson Park kicks long, France clear to halfway,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
which is very very good. Yeah, great. Yeah, awesome performance.
I
I mean,
guess
we like.
go on, Rich.
I was going to say, obviously the the shit news for anyone concerned is Antoine Dupont. It's looking like a serious layoff with I think it's ACL, is it?
Yeah, it's knee ligaments. So that's
Yeah,
cruciate ligaments. I don't know. I assume it's ACL. Someone said he reckoned it was A and M. But
yeah,
yeah.
not much fun. So that was horrible to see.
What
For
do
what
you
it's
make of that
worth,
incident?
I don't think there's anything in it, honestly.
It's not an
I
incident to me. I think it's
no,
just if you watch it because obviously watching it back, you know when it's happening. And watching it real time,
didn't see a thing.
he gets cleaned out or the clean out happens almost as soon as Antoine Dupont puts his hand on the ball to try and win the turnover. It's actually, if you take out the injury, which I think is completely incidental, it's actually a very good clean out. Like in terms of how quickly he's there, like the efficiency with which he does it. I know that's that's going to sound really bad, and it's probably quite unpopular, but it's a very good clean out. It just happens that the angles work in that way that his knee gets
Yeah,
trapped. That there is on another day that doesn't happen. What I would say, Angus Gardner said he was going to hurry up the Ireland forming lineouts, and he said next time you do it, I'm going to ping you and I'm going to free kick you. That was it was the second line out after he'd given them the warning, and they spent blooming ages. So if he'd stuck to his word on that, it might never have happened. But
maybe, but yeah,
I've got
I
no
don't think
issue.
there was
It's not
no,
dirty or anything.
no, I don't think so. I thought Byrne was because the pond's so low. I think he actually does a really good job at trying to get in at the right height, which is
Yeah,
not like missile low. And actually, he sort of the pond kind of half rides the clear out a bit, and that's why he's still there. And then it's the kind of secondary, slightly sideways motion which comes, and I think Porter maybe joins
Porter
the.
comes in
It's
behind him.
just
Yeah,
for me, genuinely, there's like nothing, and I'm trying to look at it from a almost trying to find fault, and I just think it's really unfortunate.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a real shame. Hopefully it's I don't know what the best case scenario for that is. They tend to be pretty steady layoffs, don't they? But hopefully it's
I
whatever
think
can
if
come of
that
it.
is, I think if that is Mikel Guillard that happens to, or
Mm,
Jean-Baptiste Gross, I think I think they don't. There's no
yeah,
whinging post match. There's no whinging during the game. All that stuff. I think it's because of who it is that it's has any spotlight on it at all.
yeah, agreed. It does mean obviously he won't be around for a while, and next or this week going into the last game, which is okay. We think they are probably clear favourites to win now, but it's 9 p.m. Scotland. It's a lovely kind of crescendo to the tournament. And I suppose the key points are that it's going to be no Barassi, who actually I thought was having quite a good game. There'll be no Dupont. So there's two starting birds there up for grabs. It probably throws the bench into a slight reformation. So yeah, thoughts selection ahead of Saturday.
Well, I think because Saran has obviously come into the squad, but I would be amazed. Well, the amount of times I've said that and been completely wrong this tournament. You'd imagine it would have to be Lucu after the way he played. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that Galthié just says, "Nah, Legarec's my man. I like him." Just we've seen him kind of just
Yeah,
disregard really, really good performances with what he did with Barre and Atasogbe, but you'd imagine it would have to be Luku, and I think um given the what's on the line, I think it will be Fiku. I'd be again. I mean, I was amazed that he wasn't involved last week, but I think
yeah,
it probably would be Fiku. He was 13 in the other in the because they then when they do the training at
yes,
Marcus
yeah.
C, he was the in the opposition team. He was the 13, so that would suggest that he is the next 13 on the rank.
Probably, yeah, I'd agree. Probably not in the side, but an intriguing call up. Someone you mentioned a few weeks ago. You're quite literally you are wearing a Poe hat, I think.
I am
With
wearing a
your
Poe hat,
Poe
yeah.
hat on, Fabien Galthié. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly.
No,
Tell
I
me a
think
little
that's
about
right.
him because
It's a
he
tough
is
one. It's a tough one to get your lips around, isn't it? Brow Boiry.
it is a little bit.
He's brilliant. He's an immensely talented player. I think I kind of referred to him as a bit of a thoroughbred. Like he looks like a real specimen, bearing in mind that he's only 19, 20. But he's also kind of that Rolls Royce calmness that a few French centres seem to have, but particularly the most obvious comparison being his teammate Emilien Gaeton. But he's a lot more physical. He is that kind of. He's a bit Gaeton and Cost are
12,
quite
generally a
wiry. Yeah, he's
12.
a 12. Yeah, and probably a bit more of 12 than someone like Nicolas Deporter. So he
Mm.
is, and probably more of a 12 than Gael Fickou. So, or will be anyway. He's probably
Yeah.
lighter and smaller than Fickou currently. But yeah, he's a brilliant player. I think this is he shouldn't play. I think this is far too early for him. Um,
They do
I was
like
quite surprised to see him
yeah,
there, but
they do like their extended squads, and they do train together quite a bit, don't they?
yeah,
The team. So get him in, have a look.
yeah. But I don't think he'll play, and I think the magnitude of the game is such that he won't play.
Yeah.
What do you think the bench will be?
I think they'll probably go 6-2.
With
Um,
Legarec
with
and
Legarec or Luke, I could see Luku being. I'm not sure. I mean, I'd pick him to start, but I could see that, and maybe a Deporter, maybe a Fiku in 23 jersey, cover the
who plays
wing.
13 then if
Well,
Ficou's on your bench?
for me, it'd be Deporter. More
Okay.
rugby. I think he plays with Murfana week in, week out. I think he's top draw, and has looked fine in a French shirt before. I think he's
Yeah.
high ceiling. So maybe that way. If not, I guess does Gaeton come back into the 20?
He's
Like,
injured, isn't
oh,
he?
he's injured. Of course he is. Sorry, yeah, he got injured against Racing.
I think he would start if
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think he might have
I think
started
you're
had he
right.
not get injured against Racing,
Yeah,
even ahead of Barassi. But yeah.
but it's
I
probably
think it will
gonna.
be it won't be Jalabert then. You're not saying you
I
can't
don't
see
think
Jalabert or
so.
Barre. Barre's the more
Uh,
likely one
maybe if they want a little. Yeah, possibly.
because he could cover
Bar
12 as well.
Yeah, we'll find out. I don't know. It'll probably be
Damian Try.
Josiah Raisunda,
Yeah.
someone like that. Who knows? Just quickly before we wrap up this first section, Bradbury, he did not play for the under
Can I just
20s.
ask a couple of things on Dupont quickly?
Mm,
Um, I obviously it's gutting news for all neutral rugby fans. It's gutting news for us. It's going to be great fun following his social media once he's kind of back up on his feet in some way. I'm fascinated to see what he does. But I was immediately kind of thinking when I thought of his like long injury layoff of Michael Jordan. So when he had he broke his foot in quite early on, I think it's in like his second season in the NBA, and he basically like ignored all doctors' advice and started doing like some quite intense training and like got himself to a gym, like requested permission. He came back, so he broke his left foot. And when he returned for his medical at Chicago Bulls, the calf muscles in his left calf were stronger than his right calf. So I just think like, is Dupont going to kind of come back as, like even
with a
stronger?
massive leg.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah,
is he going to come back? Because obviously my fear was that, oh no, what if he loses a yard of pace or agility? But I just feel like he's going to come back even better, and this is going to be like a part of his story that just makes him even greater.
yeah, probably.
Um, the other thing is, presumably now Toulouse can get a medical joker in for him. I imagine there's quite a lot of budget and cap
Yeah.
space available as a result of that. So
Wow.
I was thinking, like, who are they going to bring in? Like, are we talking Aaron Smith? Are they going to like pump some new genes into Gareth Edwards and like revive him? Like, or are they going to claim that Dupont's a fly half and get in like Bowden Barrett or Richie Mwanga? Like,
Wow. Yeah, that I hadn't thought of that. Who would you
I've got some genuine options that aren't like
go
make
on,
believe. Well,
quickly list them up?
Aaron Smith or TJ Perenara is actually one that would like is quite feasible, I'd say.
Hmm.
Um, the one player he's just extended his contract though, and obviously Bath are doing quite well in the Premiership. But I'd love to
Ben
see
Spencer.
Ben Spencer. Yeah, the
Yeah.
other player who I know is a big fan of Toulouse and has never played outside of his kind of boyhood club and the club of his other family members. Ben Youngs could be, like a Ben
Wow.
Youngs or Danny Care, like not,
Danny,
I'm thinking
yeah.
guys that are outside the England squad that could then go because they don't have to worry about England eligibility. And I thought Ben Youngs and Danny Care might be the kind of an experienced head then that they've kind of got, someone
Yeah, I
dependable.
could I could see Care. I think he's just signed an extension, hasn't he? 1 year
Yeah, he's done another year.
at
Yeah.
Quins. Oh God, the mind's boggling now. Oh mate, it'll be big Stu
Oh
Townsend.
yeah,
Stu
we
Townsend's
know he's
going.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.